Giancarlo Italiano, Christian resigning his head post as the manager for the Wellington Phoenix after the 5-0 drubbing to Auckland FC in the Kiwi Derby on Saturday afternoon. This news came, I don't know, shock was the word I was going to use. Maybe it wasn't too surprising for some people. I think definitely when the end of the season would have come around already, there would have been a lot of questions about Chiefy and whether he was going to continue or not because of the credit in the bank that he had from that season a couple of years ago where they went so close to silverware in the A-League, but 6 derbies, 6 losses, and the manner of which they lost this one on Saturday afternoon. Chiefy said enough was enough, and that's the story.
I thought first and foremost, it was very good of him to step down on his own terms, right? He didn't wait for the club to do it. He went to them and said, look, I think this is the best thing for both myself and more importantly, the club moving forward. So I think to sort of have that perspective as a coach, you don't really see that these days, right? Usually the coach will wait till they get the sack. So obviously you got those benefits like getting paid out and, you get paid out for maybe like 1 or 2 years or something like that. But for Italiano, it was more about the team, right? And he's built something so special. Let's not forget, ever since he first arrived at the club, right? Almost so close to making a maiden grand final, just fell short there, and just so quickly was able to galvanize the group and get the team playing on his terms. Let's not forget, didn't have any coaching experience whatsoever in terms of head coach before this role at Wellington, and then to do what he did,
playing experience,
or playing experience. Like, just to put that into perspective, it's just crazy to think about. So I think just touching on this derby in particular, like, it was nothing short of a disaster, right? Oliemi, with that sort of howler from the get-go to concede that first goal, sort of just open up the floodgates for the confidence. Just dropped after that, right? You go 1-0 down, then you cop the second goal, and then from there, it was like 11 Wellington players just running around, not knowing the system or what to do, right? They were so rattled by it, and you can tell, right? Just the goals kept coming one after the other. And Auckland, they smell blood. And Steve Corica, I think, is the type of coach who senses that and doesn't want to relax. He just wants to go for the kill. 6, 7, 8-0. Didn't get to that stage, but I think the damage obviously was already done. And by that point, obviously post-match, you heard those comments from Italiano. Stepping down, he thought that was the best thing to do, which, again, is all credit to him.
Yeah, it is. And I think it shows a bit of nobility. And I think the thing with Chiefy is because that club has given him so much, there's obviously a very special relationship there. And it obviously you never know what's going behind the scenes. Who knows what the ownership might have been thinking in terms of releasing him. Look, I think we've said it before on the podcast. I think it would have been unlikely that he would have been removed before the end of the season, but probably definitely leading towards the way of not, taking up that option for the extra year afterwards. But to actually just have that and say, you know what, this is probably not a great atmosphere. He's done everything that he could to try and turn it around, and it still hasn't worked. You still haven't won a derby, and you've lost this one 5-0. And even with the Oluwayemi stuff, it's like he's had a shocker, and then it's knocked his confidence, as you said, and then he's conceded a few more that he probably shouldn't have after that. And Chiefy took that on the chin as well, said, it was his responsibility. He's the one that selected Josh in goals. There was a decision to make, really, between Josh and Albie Kelly-Heald, who obviously came on in the second half as well, and that decision cost them, and Chiefy took that on him. And he's really just, as you say, made the decision that's in the best interest of the club moving forward, which I think is a really noble thing to do. But we can't forget as well, like, where he's come from. He came through as an analyst and like a second assistant or something under Ufi Tale when he was at the club, and had a really successful time and got really screwed around by that COVID season where they probably could have had a bit of success as well. And then he, promoted to first assistant and then eventual head coach, and then having that 23-24 season where they almost won the Premier's Plate and then took Melbourne Victory to extra time in the semi-final as well, almost made a grand final. Such a special year that just fell so close to silverware and what would have been the first piece of A-League silverware for Wellington. He will be remembered. Obviously, the last 2 seasons hasn't gone the way that he wanted to, but the amount of transfers that they lost with players going overseas, thanks to that really, really good season, obviously hurt him. But that, I feel like, is what Chiefy will be remembered for.
All those points you highlighted are absolutely correct, but it's just a shame that we're sort of going to remember him more for what's happened recently as opposed to what he did in his first season, right? Because at the end of the day, it's not like he won the championship, right? They made a semi-final, which is obviously a great run, but there's nothing really to cling on and say, okay, he actually won silverware for us. He actually did something unbelievable, whilst albeit, making the finals where that club was at that stage was still a massive achievement. Big crowds, the whole town was behind them. But again, there was just nothing, there wasn't that trophy with it, right? And so what's happened over the past season or two, how the team has sort of unraveled a bit, both on and off the pitch, that's sort of what he's unfortunately going to be remembered by a little bit more than the good things, right? His press conferences, the tactical analysis, sharing all that information, his coaching ability on the pitch, which again is a bit of a shame. But I think Italiano has, let's be honest, he's been a dead man walking for much of this season, right? I think we've said it before in this podcast that it would have had to take a result like this for something drastic to happen in terms of him leaving or him to get sacked by the board. And obviously that's what happened, right? Italiano said, that's enough for me. I don't think that the players are buying into what I want from them anymore. And it's sort of got a bit of comparison to Graham Arnold, right? At the Socceroos, where,
Mm.
last year he knew, he sensed that time was up where the players just weren't really buying into his project and what he wanted from the team. And I think Italiano probably got that same sense. And that's when you know as a coach, right, that it's probably time to, to part ways and, go for a fresh start, because he's got respect for the club, he's got respect for the players. That club obviously helped him build a coaching career in the first place. So I think that's where that respect comes from. And again, all props to Italiano for going down that road.
Yeah, and I think it's clear that he was a little bit screwed by like the era of the A League that he came through in. Being not one of like the big market teams that have the big resources to be able to retain talent year to year. When you have that successful season, we saw the carnage of the Central Coast Mariners after they won 2 years in a row and the amount of players they lost. We'll go down the list of outs that the Wellington Phoenix had after that 23-24 season. Alex Paulson getting obviously the big transfer fee, which is a credit to Chiefy as well, over to Bournemouth, and then he gets loaned out to Auckland. Finn Sermon was crucial. Bojidar Krayev, Oscar Zavada scored that late goal in the semi-final in the second leg against Victoria to get them back in it. Ben Old to St. Etienne in Ligue 1, which was a massive transfer. He was a big player for them. Nicholas Pennington, Jack Duncan, who I know obviously didn't play that season, but he would have been a number one keeper the following season for them. He went to Melbourne Victory. Oscar Van Hatten, David Ball. Like, there were so many players that was so quality and so pivotal to that 23-24 team that made them so successful that he lost and definitely didn't get anywhere near the same incomings. It was always going to be tough for him.
And I think that's why he sort of got given a bit more extra time, because of what he did in the first season, and because I think the club understood the position they were in, right? I'm sure in the off season he was after more players to come in. The club probably just couldn't deliver on some of those promises of what Italiano wanted, and probably said, okay, it's not your most ideal squad. We've got faith in you. We'll back you in. But again, it had to take a few of these kind of results to say, okay, it's probably best if we get another manager in who can probably get the best out of the squad that I've got. We spoke about this in the past, where Italiano's had to sort of adjust his tactics, with the group that he's got. And I guess it was a bit too much for him in the end. But I hope it doesn't derail him at all from, the next chapter of his coaching career, because I'm sure there's going to be clubs out there who would want someone like Chiefy, who, again, he's got so much tactical knowledge and he's so smart about, the way he even manages games. We saw that in his first season, right? Even finals football, away games, home games, how we sort of found that really good balance in between. And yeah, I think he's definitely got a bright future for sure. It's just, unfortunately, the club was just in a not so stable position to offer Italiano that really solid foundation that he had in his inaugural season. So, which is a real shame.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he gets snapped up as an assistant somewhere again, I reckon. Depending
Potentially.
on, obviously, plenty of movement. People are going everywhere at the moment. Lots of Aussies. We've seen actually like a lot of, head coaches, the likes of a David Drulich or a Ross Aloisi or whatever, leaving the A-League, but then getting picked up as assistants overseas as well. Maybe that's in the path for him as well. But yeah, good on you, Chiefy. I remember the one time I met him in person at a press conference was at Unite Round last season. And this is a very well-known thing now, but Chiefy always comes in and he shakes the hand of every single person, every single press conference, and just a nice guy to deal with. So best of luck to him for wherever he goes next.